The parking lot was empty except for the sound of Tanya's racing heartbeat. She pressed her back against the cold brick wall of the restaurant, her hands shaking so badly she could barely grip her purse. Derek stood 15 feet away, blocking the only path to her car. His face was twisted with that familiar rage she had seen too many times before. "You think you can just leave me?" His voice was low, dangerous. "You think you can hide from me?" Tanya's throat tightened. She had been so careful. 3 months of staying off social media, changing her number, moving to a new apartment across town. But somehow he had found her. He always found her. "Derek, please." Her voice came out as a whisper. "Just let me go. It's over." He took a step closer. Then another. "It's over when I say it's over." Her eyes darted around the parking lot, searching for help, for anyone. The restaurant staff had all left through the front entrance. She was alone with him in the dim light of a single street lamp. The same way she had been alone with him so many nights when his anger turned to violence. Then she saw it. A black luxury car parked in the far corner, engine running, interior light on. Someone was sitting in the driver's seat. Without thinking, without planning, Tanya ran. Her flat work shoes slapped against the pavement as she sprinted toward the car. Derek shouted behind her, his footsteps heavy and fast. She didn't look back. She couldn't. If she looked back, she would freeze like she always did. Tanya reached the car and yanked open the passenger door. The man inside looked up in shock, his phone still in his hand. He was handsome, maybe early 30s, wearing an expensive suit even at 11 at night. "Please," Tanya gasped, climbing into the car without invitation. "Please help me. My ex, he's dangerous, please, just please." The man's eyes went from confused to alert in an instant. He saw Derek approaching fast, saw the fury on his face, and seemed to understand everything in a heartbeat. "Come here," he said calmly, setting his phone down. He pulled Tanya closer, guiding her to sit sideways on his lap. "Play along. I'll protect you." Tanya's whole body was trembling as she settled against him. His arms came around her, steady and strong. She could smell his cologne, feel the expensive fabric of his suit jacket. This stranger was holding her like she was precious, like she mattered. Derek reached the car, breathing hard. He bent down to look through the open door, his face red with rage. "Get out of that car, Tanya. Now." "I think you have the wrong person," the man said. His voice was calm but carried an edge of steel that made even Tanya's fear quiet for a moment. "This is my girlfriend. And you're interrupting our evening." "That's not your girlfriend, that's my—" "I don't care what you think she is," the man interrupted. His arm tightened protectively around Tanya's waist. "What I see is a woman who clearly wants nothing to do with you. So I suggest you leave before I call the police." Derek's hands clenched into fists. Tanya flinched, instinctively ducking her head against the stranger's shoulder. She felt him notice her reaction, felt his body tense with understanding. "You have 3 seconds to step away from this car," the man said. His voice dropped lower, more dangerous. 1. "This isn't over, Tanya," Derek snarled. 2. Derek's jaw worked. For a moment, Tanya thought he might actually try to drag her out of the car. But something in the stranger's eyes must have convinced him otherwise. Derek stepped back, pointing at Tanya. "I'll find you again. You can't hide forever." The man reached across Tanya and pulled the car door shut, locking it. He kept one arm around her as he put the car in gear with his other hand. "Actually, I think you'll find that she can. And if you come near her again, you'll have more to worry about than just the police." He drove forward slowly, forcing Derek to move out of the way. Tanya watched through the window as her ex became smaller in the distance, standing alone under the streetlight with his fists still clenched. Only when they turned onto the main road did Tanya realize she was crying. Tears streamed down her face, dripping onto the stranger's suit jacket. She tried to pull away, embarrassed, but his arm remained steady around her. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know what else to do. He was going to hurt me. He always hurts me." "Don't apologize," the man said gently. He pulled into a well-lit shopping center parking lot and put the car in park. "You did exactly the right thing. You protected yourself." Tanya finally shifted off his lap into the passenger seat, wiping at her face with shaking hands. "I've ruined your suit. I have others." He reached into the back seat and produced a box of tissues, offering them to her. "Are you hurt? Did he touch you?" She shook her head, taking a tissue. "No. You stopped him before he could." She looked at this stranger who had helped her without hesitation, who had held her like she was someone worth protecting. "Thank you. I don't even know your name." "Julian," he said, extending his hand. "Julian Reed." Tanya Rodriguez. She shook his hand, noticing how warm and solid it felt. I work at the restaurant. I'm a waitress. I just got off my shift and he was waiting for me in the parking lot. Julian's expression darkened. How long has he been bothering you? We dated for 2 years. I left him 3 months ago after he... She stopped, swallowing hard. After he put me in the hospital. I've been hiding ever since. I changed everything. My phone, my address, I deleted all my social media. I thought I was safe. You are safe, Julian said firmly. Right now in this moment you're safe. And we're going to make sure you stay that way. Tanya wanted to believe him. But she had heard promises before. Derek had promised to change so many times. Her mother had promised to help, then told her to just try harder to make the relationship work. The police had promised the restraining order would protect her, but Derek had violated it twice already with no real consequences. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, Tanya said quietly, but I don't even know you. Why are you helping me? Julian was quiet for a moment, his hands resting on the steering wheel. Because I can, he finally said. Because you needed help and I was there. Because no one should have to live in fear like that. He turned to look at her. Where do you live? I'll take you home. I can call a cab, Tanya said automatically. She had learned not to accept help. Help always came with strings attached. You could, Julian agreed. But I'm already here and I'd feel better knowing you got home safely. No strings, Tanya. Just one human being helping another. There was something in his eyes that made her trust him. Maybe it was foolish. Maybe she was being naive again like everyone always said. But this man had already protected her once tonight without asking for anything in return. Okay, she said softly. Thank you. She gave him her address and they drove through the city in comfortable silence. Tanya kept glancing at him, trying to figure out who he was. The car was clearly expensive, some brand she didn't even recognize. His watch probably cost more than her yearly rent. His suit fit him perfectly, tailored and elegant. What do you do? She asked. For work, I mean. I own hotels, Julian said. A few restaurants. Some other investments. Oh. Tanya looked down at her plain black work pants and white button-up shirt, spotted with stains from tonight's dinner service. She felt very small suddenly. So you're rich. I have money, Julian corrected. Whether that makes me rich depends on how you measure it. He glanced at her. I built it all myself, if that matters. I wasn't born into it. It doesn't matter, Tanya said. I'm just grateful you were there tonight. They pulled up in front of her apartment building, a modest 3-story structure in a working-class neighborhood. Tanya gathered her purse, ready to thank him again and disappear into her life. Wait, Julian said. He pulled a business card from his wallet and wrote something on the back. This is my personal number. If that man comes near you again, call me immediately. Day or night, doesn't matter. I mean it. Tanya took the card, staring at it. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. I know enough, Julian said simply. I know you're brave enough to run toward help instead of giving up. I know you're strong enough to leave an abusive relationship, which is harder than most people realize. And I know you deserve better than living in fear. Fresh tears pricked at Tanya's eyes. When was the last time someone had said she deserved better? When had anyone ever called her brave? Thank you, she whispered. For everything. She got out of the car and hurried to her building, feeling his eyes on her until she was safely inside. Only when she was in her small studio apartment with all 3 locks engaged did she let herself fall apart. Tanya slid down the door and cried into her hands, great gasping sobs that came from somewhere deep inside. She cried for the 2 years she had wasted with Derek. She cried for the girl she used to be before his fists taught her to be small and quiet. She cried from relief that someone had actually helped her without expecting anything in return. When the tears finally stopped, she pulled out Julian's card and stared at the elegant script. His personal number. He had given her his personal number. She had no intention of using it. People like Julian Reed didn't stay involved with people like her. He had done his good deed for the day. Tomorrow he would wake up and forget all about the scared waitress he helped in a parking lot. But she kept the card anyway, tucking it into her wallet next to the restraining order that had never protected her. That night, Tanya barely slept. Every sound in the hallway made her jump. Every car engine outside her window could be Derek coming back. She knew his pattern. He would be angrier now, more determined. He would see her asking someone else for help as the ultimate betrayal. By morning she was exhausted and terrified. She called in sick to work, something she never did. She couldn't face going back to that parking lot. What if Derek was waiting again? Her phone buzzed with a text from her manager, annoyed about the short notice. Then another text came through from an unknown number. This is Julian Reed. I hope you made it through the night okay. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. Tanya stared at the message. He had actually texted her. He actually cared enough to check in. Before she could overthink it, she typed back, I'm okay. Thank you for asking. I called in sick because I'm scared to go back to the restaurant. His response came within minutes. Understandable. Would you be willing to meet me for coffee this afternoon? I have an idea that might help your situation. Tanya's finger hovered over the keyboard. Meeting a stranger for coffee was probably foolish. But then again, sitting in this apartment being afraid was also foolish. And Julian had already proven he wasn't a threat. Okay, she typed. Where? Have you ever felt so desperate that you'd trust a complete stranger with your life? What would you have done in Tanya's situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next in Tanya and Julian's story. The coffee shop Julian chose was in a nice part of town, the kind of place where everything cost twice as much because of the ambience. Tanya felt out of place in her jeans and simple green sweater, but Julian greeted her with a warm smile that made her self-consciousness fade. Thank you for coming, he said, pulling out her chair like they were at a fancy restaurant. What would you like to drink? Just a regular coffee is fine, Tanya said. Julian ordered for both of them at the counter, insisting on paying despite her weak protests. When he returned with their drinks, he also had 2 croissants. You mentioned you just got off work when we met last night, he said, pushing one pastry toward her. I'm guessing you haven't eaten much today either. He was right. Tanya's stomach had been too twisted with anxiety to eat breakfast. She took a bite of the croissant and nearly moaned. It was buttery and perfect, probably the best thing she had eaten in months. Julian smiled at her reaction. The owner is French. She refuses to compromise on quality. It's amazing, Tanya said. She took another bite then set it down, remembering why they were here. You said you had an idea? Julian's expression became serious. I've been thinking about your situation all night. You need a job where your ex-boyfriend doesn't know the location. You need housing in a place he can't find. And you need actual security, not just a piece of paper that calls itself a restraining order. Tanya's cheeks burned. I know I'm a mess. You don't have to fix my problems. I'm not trying to fix you, Julian said gently. You're not broken, Tanya. You're dealing with a dangerous situation that requires resources you currently don't have access to. I happen to have those resources. I can't take charity, Tanya said, even though the offer made her heart race with hope. I won't be someone's project. Good, because I'm not offering charity. Julian leaned forward. I own a hotel downtown, the Reed Grand. The restaurant there is always looking for experienced servers. The pay is better than where you work now and the tips are significantly higher. I can offer you that job if you want it. Tanya blinked. Just like that. Just like that. Your manager at Salvatore's gave you a good reference when I called this morning. You called my manager? I wanted to make sure you were actually a good waitress, Julian said with a slight smile. Tony said you're one of his best, always on time, never complains, good with difficult customers. So yes, the job is yours if you want it. Tanya's mind spun. A job at a hotel downtown would pay better. It would be safer with hotel security. And Derek wouldn't think to look for her there. What about housing? She asked carefully. I own several apartment buildings around the city, Julian continued. I have a vacant unit in a building with excellent security. The building manager is former military, takes safety seriously. I can have you moved in by tomorrow. It was too much. Too good. There had to be a catch. Why would you do all this? Tanya asked. People don't just hand out jobs and apartments to strangers. Julian was quiet for a long moment, his fingers tracing the rim of his coffee cup. 5 years ago, my younger sister was in a relationship like yours. I didn't know how bad it was until she showed up at my door at 3 in the morning with a black eye and a broken wrist. I helped her leave, got her somewhere safe, paid for therapy. Where is she now? Tanya asked softly. Married to a good man, 2 kids, living in Seattle. She's happy. Julian met Tanya's eyes. But she almost wasn't. If she hadn't had someone with resources to help her escape, things could have ended very differently. So when I see someone in the same situation and I have the ability to help, I do. It's that simple. Tanya felt tears threatening again. She blinked them back. What do you want in return? Nothing, Julian said firmly. The apartment rent will be fair market value, deducted from your paycheck like any other job. The position at the restaurant is legitimate employment. You'll work for your money, Tanya. This isn't a handout. But the security helping me move all of that. Consider it a signing bonus, Julian interrupted. Plus, I have a vested interest in keeping my employees safe. Bad for business if staff members are being stalked in parking lots. He was giving her a way to say yes without feeling like she was accepting charity. Tanya recognized the kindness in that, the way he was preserving her dignity while still offering help. Okay, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Yes, I accept. Thank you. You don't have to thank me, Julian said. But he smiled, and Tanya saw genuine happiness in his eyes, like helping her made him happy too. They spent the next hour going over details. Julian pulled out his phone and showed her pictures of the apartment. It was beautiful, much nicer than her current place, with actual separate rooms instead of just one studio space. The building had a security desk, cameras, and required keycard access. I'll have my head of security, Patricia, reach out to you today, Julian said. She'll need information about your ex-boyfriend to flag him in the system. She's very good at her job. Okay, Tanya agreed. The idea of someone professional taking her situation seriously was almost overwhelming. I'll also arrange for movers tomorrow. Just pack your personal items, leave the furniture. The apartment is furnished. I can't afford furnished, Tanya started to protest. Same rent, Julian said firmly. The furniture was already there from the previous tenant. You'd actually be doing me a favor by using it instead of making me pay for storage. Tanya doubted that was true, but she accepted it anyway. She was learning that Julian was the kind of person who helped in ways that didn't make you feel small. They finished their coffee, and Julian walked her to her car, which she had taken a cab to retrieve that morning. Start date is Monday if that works for you, he said. That gives you the weekend to move and settle in. Monday is perfect, Tanya said. She hesitated, then spoke the words she needed him to hear. Julian, I know you said I don't have to thank you, but I need to anyway. You're giving me a chance at a real fresh start. That means everything. Julian's expression softened. You're giving yourself a fresh start, Tanya? You're the one who left a bad situation. You're the one who had the courage to ask for help. I'm just providing some resources. The hard part? That's all you. As Tanya drove home, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, genuine hope that maybe her life could be different. That maybe she could be safe. That maybe good things could actually happen to her. Her phone rang as she pulled into her apartment complex. A known number. Her heart jumped into her throat until she remembered Derek wouldn't call, he would just show up. Hello? Tanya Rodriguez? This is Patricia Chin, head of security for Reed Properties. Mr. Reed asked me to give you a call. The woman's voice was calm and professional, exactly the kind of voice you would want in a security expert. Yes, hello, Tanya said. He mentioned you would contact me. I'd like to meet with you today if possible. I need to collect some information about your ex-boyfriend and assess your security needs. Are you available this afternoon? I am. I'm actually off work today. Perfect. I can meet you at your current apartment or at a neutral location, whichever makes you more comfortable. Tanya thought about Derek potentially watching her building. Neutral location, please. They agreed to meet back at the coffee shop in an hour. Tanya used the time to shower and change, trying to make herself look more put together. When she arrived, Patricia was already there, a tall Asian woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Thank you for meeting me, Patricia said, shaking Tanya's hand with a firm grip. Let's get started. I need you to tell me everything about Derek. Full name, physical description, vehicle information, known associates, his patterns and habits. For the next hour, Tanya answered questions. Patricia took detailed notes, never once making Tanya feel like she was overreacting or being dramatic. When Tanya described the time Derek had thrown her down the stairs, Patricia simply nodded and wrote it down. I'll be filing additional reports with the police, Patricia said. Violation of a restraining order is a crime, and you have multiple incidents documented. I'll also be coordinating with the security team at your new building and at the hotel. Derek's photo will be flagged in all systems. If he comes within 100 yards of either location, we'll know immediately. You really think all this is necessary? Tanya asked. Patricia's expression was serious. Tanya, most domestic violence victims are in the greatest danger right after they leave. Your ex-boyfriend has already shown he's willing to violate legal boundaries to find you. Yes, these precautions are absolutely necessary. Mr. Reed was right to call me. By the time they finished, Tanya felt emotionally drained but also strangely validated. Someone was taking her fears seriously. Someone believed her. One more thing, Patricia said as they prepared to leave. Mr. Reed has provided his personal number in case of emergency. I want you to know that's not something he does lightly. If you ever feel unsafe day or night, you call him. Understood. Tanya nodded. Why is he doing all this? Really? Patricia's stern expression softened slightly. Julian Reed is one of the good ones. He believes in using his resources to help people. I've worked for him for 8 years and I've seen him do this kind of thing more times than I can count. He doesn't do it for recognition or gratitude. He does it because he can, and because he believes it's the right thing to do. That night, Tanya began packing her belongings. She didn't have much, just clothes and a few personal items. Most of the things in her apartment were either Derek's or things he had bought to control her. As she packed, her phone buzzed with a text from Julian. Patricia said the meeting went well. Movers will be there at 9 a.m. I'll come by around 10 to make sure everything is going smoothly if that's okay. You don't have to do that, Tanya typed back. I know. But I'd like to. See you tomorrow. Tanya fell asleep that night with Julian's business card on her nightstand and Patricia's number programmed into her phone. For the first time in 3 months, she didn't barricade the door with a chair. She was still scared, but underneath the fear was something new. The feeling that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone anymore. The movers arrived exactly at 9, professional and efficient. By 10:30, all of Tanya's belongings were loaded in their truck. She did one final walkthrough of the studio apartment that had been her hiding place for 3 months, making sure she hadn't forgotten anything. A knock at the door made her jump, heart pounding, until she heard Julian's voice. Tanya? It's Julian. The movers said you were just finishing up. She opened the door to find him standing there in dark jeans and a blue button-down shirt, more casual than she had seen him before but still looking put together. He held 2 coffee cups and a bag from a bakery. Thought you might need fuel, he said, offering her a cup. Moving is exhausting work. You didn't have to come, Tanya said, accepting the coffee gratefully. I know you must be busy. I wanted to make sure the transition went smoothly. He looked around the sparse apartment. Is this everything? I don't have much, Tanya admitted. Most of what I owned before I left behind when I left Derek. Starting over meant literally starting over. Julian's expression darkened at the mention of her ex, but he simply nodded. Then let's get you to your new place. I'll follow you in my car. The drive across town felt symbolic somehow, like she was driving away from her old life and toward something better. The new apartment building was in a nicer neighborhood, with tree-lined streets and well-maintained buildings. The Reed residence's sign out front was subtle but elegant. Julian led her to the security desk where a muscular man in his 50s stood. Tanya, this is Frank Morrison, building manager and head of security. Frank, this is Tanya Rodriguez, our new resident in 3B. Frank shook her hand with a kind smile. Ms. Rodriguez, welcome. I've been briefed on your situation by Ms. Chin. I want you to know this building takes security very seriously. We have cameras on all entrances, key card access required after 6 p.m., and I live on site. My apartment is right by the front door and I'm a light sleeper. Thank you, Tanya said, grateful for his straightforward manner. Frank handed her 2 key cards. One for building entry, one for your apartment. Don't give them to anyone, don't loan them out. I have your ex-boyfriend's photo at my desk. If he shows up here, the police will be called immediately. The apartment itself took Tanya's breath away. It was on the 3rd floor with large windows that let in natural light. The living room had a comfortable couch and chair, the bedroom had a real bed with a nice frame, and the kitchen actually had counter space and modern appliances. It's beautiful, Tanya whispered. I'm glad you like it, Julian said, leaning against the doorframe as the movers brought in her boxes. The previous tenant was transferred to our Seattle location. She left the furniture because she was downsizing. So truly you're helping me out by using it. Tanya turned to face him. Can I ask you something honestly? Of course. Would you be doing all this if I wasn't, if you didn't? She struggled to find the words. Is this because you're attracted to me? Julian met her eyes steadily. I'll be honest with you, Tanya. Yes, I think you're beautiful. But no, that's not why I'm helping you. If you were a 60-year-old man in the same situation, I would do the exact same thing. My attraction to you is separate from my desire to help you be safe. Does that make sense? His honesty was refreshing. No games, no hidden agenda. Yes, Tanya said. Thank you for being straight with me. I'll always be straight with you, Julian promised. That's one thing you can count on. After the movers left, Julian helped Tanya unpack. She protested at first, but he insisted, rolling up his sleeves and making himself useful. They worked in comfortable silence, occasionally chatting about small things. Where the dishes should go, which direction the couch looked best facing, how the light came through the windows in the afternoon. "Tell me about yourself," Julian said as they assembled her bookshelf. "Beyond the difficult stuff. Who is Tanya Rodriguez when she's not dealing with crisis?" Tanya thought about it. Who had she been before Derek? It felt like a lifetime ago. "I wanted to go to culinary school," she said slowly. "Before Derek, I was saving up. I love cooking, creating new recipes. My grandmother taught me when I was little. She was from Mexico originally, and she had all these traditional recipes that she modified and made her own." "Do you still cook?" Julian asked. "Not really. Derek didn't like me cooking. He said I was showing off or trying to make him feel bad about his own skills." She shook her head. "That should have been a red flag, right? A man who felt threatened by cooking." "A lot of things about him should have been red flags," Julian said. "But when you're in it, it's hard to see clearly. That's not your fault." They finished unpacking by late afternoon. Julian ordered pizza for dinner, insisting it was the traditional moving day meal. They ate sitting on her new couch, and Tanya realized with a start that she felt comfortable. Actually comfortable, in a way she hadn't felt around anyone in years. "So what about you?" Tanya asked. "How does someone end up owning hotels before they're 35? "I'm 33 actually," Julian said with a smile. "And I got lucky with timing plus worked myself nearly to death for a few years. I started in restaurant management at 21, saved every penny, bought a struggling bed and breakfast when I was 24. Fixed it up, made it profitable, sold it for twice what I paid. Reinvested that into a small hotel. Repeated the process." "That's not luck, that's skill," Tanya said. "Some of both." Julian set down his pizza. "But I'll tell you what really motivated me. My parents died when I was 19, car accident. They left me and my sister a little money, enough for me to start college. But I didn't want to spend 4 years studying while my sister struggled. So I went straight into work, made money fast, made sure she was taken care of." "That's why you're so protective," Tanya realized. "Probably," Julian admitted. "She's the only family I have. Making sure she was safe and happy became my whole world for a while. Maybe I'm trying to recreate that feeling by helping other people now. I don't know. I haven't really analyzed it." "I think it's nice," Tanya said softly. "The world needs more people who help just because they can." Julian met her eyes and something passed between them, a moment of understanding and connection. Then he looked away, checking his watch. "I should go. Let you settle in properly. You start at the restaurant Monday morning, 9 a.m. Ask for Kenji Tanaka, he's the head chef. He'll get you oriented." "Okay," Tanya said, walking him to the door. "Julian, thank you. For everything. For believing me, for helping me, for treating me like a person instead of a victim." "You are a person," Julian said simply. "A strong, brave person who deserves good things. I hope you'll start believing that soon." After he left, Tanya stood in her new apartment and let herself cry. But this time the tears were different. They weren't from fear or pain. They were from relief, from gratitude, from the overwhelming feeling of being cared for by someone who expected nothing in return. She spent the weekend making the apartment her own. She bought a few plants at the local market, hung some pictures, arranged the kitchen the way she wanted it. Frank checked on her twice just to make sure she was settling in okay. The other residents she met in the hallway were friendly but not nosy, exactly the right balance. Sunday evening, Tanya stood in her kitchen and did something she hadn't done in over 2 years. She cooked. Really cooked, not just heating up something quick. She made her grandmother's recipe for chicken mole, the one that took hours and used 17 ingredients and filled the whole apartment with the most amazing smell. As she stirred the pot, tears running down her face from the pure joy of doing something she loved, her phone buzzed. "How's the apartment? Everything working okay?" Julian's text read. "It's perfect," Tanya typed back. "I'm cooking dinner right now. Real cooking. I forgot how much I loved it." "That's wonderful. Enjoy it. See you at the restaurant tomorrow." Tanya ate her meal slowly, savoring every bite. Was good. Really good. And she had made it herself, in her own kitchen, in her own apartment, without anyone telling her she was doing it wrong or showing off or being too much. Tomorrow she would start her new job. Tomorrow she would take another step toward rebuilding her life. But tonight, right now, she was just going to be grateful. For the first time in years, Tanya felt like herself again. Monday morning arrived with clear skies and nervous energy. Tanya dressed carefully in black slacks and a white blouse, professional but not too formal. The hotel was downtown, a beautiful building with classic architecture and modern updates. The Reed Grand, the sign proclaimed in elegant gold letters. The restaurant inside was called Constellation, all dark wood and soft lighting even at 9 in the morning. A man in his 40s with kind eyes and a chef's coat spotted her immediately. "You must be Tanya," he said, his slight accent revealing Japanese heritage. "I'm Kenji Tanaka, head chef. Mr. Reed said you'd be starting today." "Nice to meet you," Tanya said, shaking his hand. His grip was firm but gentle, hands showing years of kitchen work. "Let me show you around, introduce you to the team. We're a tight group here. Mr. Reed treats his staff well, so people tend to stay." The restaurant staff was indeed friendly. There was Bridget O'Connor, a red-headed woman around Tanya's age with a quick smile and infectious laugh. She immediately took Tanya under her wing. "Finally, another woman under 30, Bridget said. "Don't get me wrong, I love the guys, but sometimes you need another girl to complain to about uncomfortable work shoes, you know?" Tanya laughed, instantly liking her. "I absolutely know." The work itself was similar to her previous job but somehow better. The kitchen was more organized, the customers more polite, the tips significantly higher. Kenji ran his kitchen with calm efficiency, never yelling or throwing things like some chefs Tanya had worked with. "He's the best," Bridget confided during a quiet moment. "My last head chef screamed at me for putting garnish on the wrong side of the plate. Kenji just teaches you the right way and trusts you to do better next time." Julian stopped by during the lunch rush, speaking briefly with Kenji before heading to his office upstairs. He caught Tanya's eye and smiled, a quick acknowledgement before disappearing. She appreciated that he didn't make a big deal of her first day, didn't hover or check on her constantly. After her shift, Tanya was gathering her things when Bridget appeared. "A few of us are getting drinks after work on Friday. You should come. It's a good way to get to know everyone outside of the chaos." "I'd like that," Tanya said, meaning it. When was the last time she'd had friends? Derek had systematically isolated her from everyone until he was her whole world. "Great. Oh, and between you and me," Bridget lowered her voice, glancing around conspiratorially, "Mr. Reed seems to like you. He never comes by during service. He usually just sends an email if he needs something." "We're just friends," Tanya said quickly. "He's been helping me with a difficult situation." "Hey, no judgment," Bridget held up her hands. "Mr. Reed is a good guy. Best boss I've ever had. Whatever the situation is, you're in good hands." The rest of the week passed smoothly. Tanya fell into a routine. Work during the day, home to her safe apartment at night, occasional texts from Julian checking in. He didn't push, didn't demand her time or attention. Just steady, quiet support. On Thursday evening, Julian texted, "How would you feel about dinner tomorrow night? Nothing fancy. Just thought it might be nice to catch up outside of work context." Tanya stared at the message for a long moment. Was this a date? Should she say yes? She was attracted to Julian, she couldn't deny that. But was she ready for anything romantic? "That would be nice," she finally typed. "Where?" "My place actually. I like to cook and I promise I'm decent at it. But if you prefer a restaurant, that's fine too." The idea of his place was both terrifying and appealing. Private, safe, but also intimate. "Your place sounds good," she sent back before she could overthink it. Friday at work, Bridget noticed Tanya's distracted state. "You okay? You seem nervous." "I have dinner with Julian tonight," Tanya admitted. "At his place." Bridget's eyes widened. "Like a date? Maybe? I don't know. He said he wanted to catch up." "Girl, that's definitely a date." Bridget grinned. "Good for you. He's gorgeous and rich and actually nice, which is like finding a unicorn." "I don't know if I'm ready," Tanya confessed. "I've only been out of my last relationship for a few months. What if this is too fast?" Bridget's expression turned serious. "Look, I don't know your whole story and you don't have to tell me. But I do know that life is short and good men are rare. If you like him and he likes you, don't let fear stop you from being happy. Just take it at whatever pace feels right." That evening, Tanya changed 3 times before settling on dark jeans and a red sweater that made her feel confident. Julian had sent his address earlier, a penthouse in one of the nicer buildings downtown. When she arrived, he greeted her at the door in jeans and a casual navy shirt, looking relaxed and happy to see her. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. "Fair warning, I might have gone a little overboard with the cooking." His penthouse was beautiful but not ostentatious. Modern furniture, lots of windows with city views, but it felt lived in rather than like a showroom. The kitchen was open to the living area, and something on the stove smelled incredible. "Are you making paella?" Tanya asked, recognizing the saffron scent. Trying to, Julian said with a self-deprecating smile. It's my signature dish, though calling anything I make a signature dish is probably generous. It smells amazing. They fell into easy conversation as Julian finished cooking. Tanya found herself relaxing, the nervousness fading. This was just dinner with someone she was getting to know, nothing to be scared of. Over dinner, which was actually delicious despite Julian's modesty, they talked about everything and nothing. Books they loved, movies that made them cry, embarrassing childhood stories. Julian told her about the time he tried to fix his own plumbing and flooded his first apartment. Tanya shared a story about accidentally setting her grandmother's kitchen on fire trying to make flambé at age 12. So you've always been ambitious in the kitchen, Julian observed. I guess so. Food was always how my family showed love. My grandmother would spend all day cooking for Sunday dinners, feeding whoever showed up. Neighbors, friends, random people from church. She believed food brought people together. She sounds wonderful. She was. Tanya's smile turned sad. She passed away when I was 16. I still use her recipes though. It makes me feel close to her. After dinner they moved to the couch with wine. The conversation turned more personal. Can I ask you something? Julian said. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Okay. How are you really doing? With everything? Tanya considered the question honestly. Better than I was. The new apartment helps. Having a job where I feel safe helps. Knowing Derek can't just show up helps. But I'm still scared sometimes. I wake up in the middle of the night convinced I heard someone at my door. I check over my shoulder constantly when I'm walking to my car. That's completely normal, Julian said gently. Trauma doesn't disappear just because circumstances change. Have you thought about talking to someone? A therapist. I can't afford therapy. The hotel offers health insurance with mental health coverage, Julian said. It should cover most of the cost. I can have HR send you the information if you're interested. You've already done so much. Tanya, therapy isn't something I'm doing for you. It's a benefit you've earned by being employed. Every staff member has access to the same coverage. She looked at him, this man who kept helping without making her feel like a charity case. Why are you so good at this? At helping without making someone feel small? Julian was quiet for a moment. Because I remember what it felt like to need help and be too proud to ask for it. After my parents died, people wanted to help my sister and me, but I refused everything. I was determined to do it all myself because I thought accepting help made me weak. I almost burned out completely before I learned that accepting help is actually the strong thing to do. How did you learn that? My sister sat me down one day and told me that by refusing help, I was actually being selfish. That I was depriving people of the chance to do something good, to feel useful. She said that accepting help with grace is a gift you give to the helper. Tanya had never thought about it that way. Your sister sounds smart. She is. She's the smart one. I'm just the one who got lucky with business. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, looking out at the city lights. Tanya felt something shifting inside her, walls coming down that she had built for protection. I like you, she said suddenly. Not just because you've helped me. I actually like you as a person. And that scares me. Julian turned to look at her. Why does it scare you? Because the last time I liked someone I ended up in the hospital. Because I don't trust my own judgment anymore. Because what if I'm broken and I don't know how to do this anymore? You're not broken, Julian said firmly. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. You're healing. There's a difference. And for what it's worth, I like you too. Very much. But I'm not going anywhere, Tanya. We can take this at whatever pace you need. There's no rush. What if I'm never ready? Tanya whispered. Then we stay friends. I'd rather have you in my life as a friend than not have you in my life at all. He squeezed her hand gently. You don't owe me anything, Tanya. Not romance, not gratitude beyond what any decent person deserves for basic kindness. All you owe yourself is to heal and be happy. Tanya felt tears building but pushed them back. How are you real? Julian smiled. I ask myself the same thing about you. You've been through something traumatic and you're still kind, still hopeful, still able to laugh. That takes incredible strength. They talked for another hour before Tanya decided she should head home. Julian walked her to the door and they stood there for a moment in the entryway. Thank you for tonight, Tanya said. For dinner, for conversation, for understanding. Thank you for taking a chance on me, Julian replied. I know trust doesn't come easy right now. On impulse, Tanya stood on her toes and kissed his cheek. Good night, Julian. His smile was brilliant. Good night, Tanya. Text me when you get home safe. I will. As Tanya drove home, she felt something blooming in her chest. It was small and fragile, but it was there. Hope that maybe she could have someone good and kind in her life. Hope that maybe she could trust again, love again, be happy again. Her phone buzzed as she parked at her building. A text from Julian. I really enjoyed tonight. Let's do it again soon? I'd like that, she typed back with a smile. Inside her apartment, Tanya stood at the window looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Derek was probably still angry, still looking for ways to hurt her. But right here, right now, she was safe. She had a good job, a secure home, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of something beautiful with someone who saw her as more than a victim. For the first time since she could remember, Tanya felt like her future might actually be bright. 3 weeks passed in a blur of happiness. Tanya settled into her job at Constellation, becoming part of the team. Bridget became a real friend, someone she could laugh with during shifts and text funny memes to late at night. Kenji taught her little tricks from his years in professional kitchens, treating her like a valued colleague rather than just a server. And Julian became something more. They had dinner together twice a week, sometimes at his place, sometimes at restaurants around the city. They went to a comedy show that had them both laughing until they cried. They spent a Sunday afternoon at a museum, wandering through exhibits and debating the meaning of modern art. They texted throughout the day, little messages that made Tanya smile. But they hadn't kissed. Not really. A few close moments, hands almost touching, leaning in close during conversations. Julian was clearly giving her space to heal, to be sure, and Tanya appreciated it even as she found herself wanting more. You're glowing, Bridget said one afternoon as they set up for dinner service. I mean it, you look actually happy. I am happy, Tanya admitted. It's weird. I keep waiting for something bad to happen. Maybe nothing bad will happen, Bridget suggested. Maybe you're just allowed to be happy now. Maybe, Tanya said, but the fear was always there in the back of her mind. Derek had been quiet for too long. She knew him well enough to know that didn't mean he had given up. That evening, the restaurant was particularly busy. Some conference in town had brought in business travelers with expense accounts who ordered appetizers and drinks freely. Tanya was juggling 4 tables, moving efficiently through the dining room with practiced ease. She was heading to the kitchen with an order when she saw him. Derek was standing in the restaurant entrance, scanning the room. He was wearing a nice suit, probably borrowed or stolen, trying to blend in with the hotel guests. But Tanya knew every line of his face, every expression. And right now, his expression was determined and angry. Time seemed to slow down. Tanya's hands went numb, the order pad slipping from her fingers. Derek's eyes found her across the room, and his mouth curved into a cold smile. Found you, he mouthed. Tanya's training kicked in before her panic could freeze her. She turned and walked quickly toward the kitchen, pushing through the doors. Kenji looked up from plating a dish. Derek is here, Tanya said, her voice shaking. My ex. He's in the restaurant. Kenji's expression went hard. He immediately pulled out his phone and hit a number on speed dial. Julian? Derek is here in Constellation. Tanya is safe in the kitchen, but he's in the dining room. Pause. Understood. He hung up and put a hand on Tanya's shoulder. Stay here. Julian is on his way down and security has been alerted. You're safe. Through the round window in the kitchen door, Tanya watched Derek approach the host's stand, saying something to the hostess. The poor girl looked confused, shaking her head. Derek's face reddened, his voice rising though Tanya couldn't hear the words. Then Julian appeared, moving through the restaurant with calm confidence. He said something to the hostess, who quickly retreated. Julian positioned himself between Derek and the kitchen doors, hands relaxed at his sides but body language clearly blocking the way. Tanya couldn't hear the conversation, but she saw Derek's anger escalate, saw him point toward the kitchen, saw Julian shake his head firmly. 2 security guards appeared, hotel security in their clean uniforms, flanking Derek on either side. Derek made a sudden move toward the kitchen. Julian didn't back down, didn't move aside. He simply stood there, immovable, while the security guards took Derek's arms. That's when Derek started shouting. His voice carried into the kitchen now, loud and vicious. Tanya, get out here. You can't hide from me forever. Tanya flinched, old instincts making her want to obey, to go to him, to try to calm him down before it got worse. Kenji's hand tightened on her shoulder. You don't go out there. You never go out there. He has no power over you anymore. Derek was being escorted toward the exit now, still shouting. You think you're better than me? You think this rich boyfriend will protect you? I'll find you, Tanya. You're mine. Julian followed them out, his expression calm but his eyes cold. The restaurant had gone quiet, all the diners watching the scene unfold. Bridget appeared at Tanya's side, having seen what happened. "Come on," she said gently. "Let's go to the staff room." In the small staff room, Tanya sat on the couch and tried to breathe. Her whole body was shaking, adrenaline making her hands tremble. Bridget sat next to her, not saying anything, just being present. 10 minutes later, Julian came in. His face softened when he saw Tanya, and he crossed the room immediately, crouching in front of her. "Are you okay?" "No," Tanya said honestly. "But I'm not hurt." "Did he leave?" "Security called the police. He violated his restraining order by coming here, and he created a disturbance. They arrested him." Julian's jaw was tight with barely controlled anger. "I've also got my lawyer working on getting a more comprehensive protection order. What happened tonight is on security footage. He threatened you in front of dozens of witnesses." "He said he'll find me," Tanya whispered. "He won't." Julian took her hands, his touch warm and steady. "Tanya, look at me. He won't find you. You're protected here. The building where you live has security. He violated a restraining order in front of police officers. He's going to face real consequences this time. You don't know him. He doesn't care about consequences when he's angry. Then we'll make sure he can't get to you even if he tries." Julian's voice was firm. "I'm not going to let him hurt you, Tanya. I promise you that." Tanya wanted to believe him. But she had heard promises before. Julian seemed to sense her doubt. "What can I do? What do you need right now?" "I don't know," Tanya admitted. "I just want to feel safe." "Okay." Julian stood up and pulled out his phone. "I'm taking you home. Patricia is already on her way to your building to brief Frank. And tonight, if you want, I can stay at your place. On the couch. Just so you're not alone." The offer was tempting. The idea of being alone in her apartment tonight, knowing Derek had found her at work, was terrifying. "Okay," Tanya said quietly. "Yes, please." Julian turned to Bridget. "Can you cover her tables for the rest of the shift? I'll make sure you're compensated for the extra work." "Of course," Bridget said immediately. "Tanya, text me later, okay? Let me know you're all right." The drive to Tanya's apartment was quiet. Julian kept one hand on hers the whole way, solid and reassuring. When they arrived, Patricia was indeed there, talking intently with Frank. Both turned as Tanya and Julian approached. "Mr. Reed, Ms. Rodriguez," Patricia said professionally. "I've reviewed the security footage from tonight with Frank. Derek got past hotel security by claiming to have a dinner reservation. He won't be able to use that method again. I've also sent his photo to every hotel and restaurant in the Reed Properties portfolio. If he tries to enter any of our locations, he'll be identified immediately and removed." "What about here?" Tanya asked. "What if he comes here?" "He doesn't know where you live," Patricia reminded her. "And even if he somehow finds out, he'll have to get through building security. Frank and I have implemented additional protocols. No visitors without prior approval from residents. All deliveries verified with residents before being allowed up. Increased patrols of the building perimeter." It all sounded good in theory. But Tanya knew Derek. He was persistent when he wanted something. Upstairs in her apartment, Julian made tea while Tanya changed into comfortable clothes. When she emerged from the bedroom in sweatpants and an oversized shirt, he had 2 mugs of chamomile waiting. "My sister used to make this when she was upset," Julian said. "Claimed it was magic tea that fixed everything. It's not magic, obviously, but it's warm and it helps." They sat on the couch together, and Tanya felt some of the tension leave her body. Julian pulled a blanket over her lap, taking care of her in small, thoughtful ways. "I'm sorry I fell apart," Tanya said. "You didn't fall apart. You had a normal reaction to seeing someone who hurt you." Julian set down his mug and turned to face her fully. "Tanya, what Derek did to you isn't something you just get over. It's going to take time to feel completely safe again. And that's okay. You're allowed to be scared." "I hate being scared," Tanya confessed. "I hate that he still has this power over me." "He doesn't have power over you," Julian said firmly. "Fear is just your brain trying to protect you from danger. It's actually a sign of strength, not weakness. It means you're smart enough to recognize threats." "When did you get so wise?" Tanya asked with a small smile. "Therapy," Julian admitted. "After my parents died, I saw someone for about a year. Best decision I ever made. It taught me that dealing with hard things doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." They talked for another hour before Tanya admitted she was exhausted. Julian made up the couch with blankets and a pillow she provided, insisting he was comfortable. Julian? Tanya said from her bedroom doorway. Thank you. For everything. For protecting me tonight, for being here, for not making me feel silly, for being scared. You never have to thank me for basic human decency, Julian said. Get some rest. I'll be right here if you need anything. Tanya climbed into bed, but sleep was hard to find. Every small sound made her jump. The building settling, a car outside, the wind against the windows. Finally, around 2 in the morning, she gave up and went back to the living room. Julian was awake on the couch, scrolling through his phone. Can't sleep? He asked gently. Tanya shook her head. Every time I close my eyes, I see him. Julian didn't say anything. He just lifted the blanket in invitation. Tanya climbed onto the couch next to him, curling into his side. His arm came around her, holding her securely. You're safe, Julian murmured. I'm right here. Nothing is going to hurt you. With his heartbeat steady under her ear and his warmth surrounding her, Tanya finally felt her body relax. The fear was still there, but it was manageable now. Dulled by the feeling of being protected by someone she trusted. Julian, she whispered. Yeah. I think I'm falling for you. His arm tightened around her. I'm already there. Have been for weeks. Tanya tilted her face up and Julian leaned down and finally they kissed. It was soft and gentle, full of promise and patience. When they pulled apart, Tanya was crying, but they were good tears. Relief and joy and the overwhelming feeling of being cared for. We'll get through this, Julian promised. Together. Whatever happens with Derek, whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Tanya believed him. And as she fell asleep in his arms, safe and warm and protected, she let herself hope that maybe her nightmare was finally coming to an end. Maybe her future could really be as bright as Julian made her believe it could be. Morning light filtered through the curtains, waking Tanya slowly. For a confused moment, she couldn't remember where she was or why she felt so safe. Then she registered the warmth against her back, the arm draped over her waist, the steady breathing behind her. Julian. On her couch. Where they had fallen asleep holding each other. Tanya carefully extracted herself and went to the kitchen, putting on coffee. She needed to process last night, needed to think about what it meant that she had kissed Julian, that she had told him she was falling for him. Was it too soon? Was she using him as a safety net instead of genuinely caring for him? No. She knew it was real. The feelings she had for Julian were completely separate from the gratitude she felt for his help. She liked his laugh, the way he listened when she talked, how he remembered small details she mentioned in passing. She liked who she was when she was with him, confident and hopeful instead of scared and small. Morning, Julian said from behind her. His hair was messy from sleep, his shirt wrinkled. He looked adorable. Morning. Coffee? Please. They stood in the kitchen together, both slightly awkward now that the crisis had passed and they had to deal with what had happened between them. So, Julian started. So, Tanya echoed. I meant what I said last night. All of it. Julian set down his coffee mug. I'm falling for you, Tanya. Actually, that's not accurate. I've already fallen. But I want you to know that there's no pressure here. We can take this as slow as you need. I don't want slow, Tanya said, surprising herself. I'm tired of letting fear control my life. Derek took 2 years from me. I don't want to give him any more time. So if you're asking if I want to try us, then yes. I do. Julian's smile was brilliant. He crossed the kitchen and pulled her into his arms, kissing her soundly. This kiss was different from last night's gentle exploration. This was certain, full of promise and possibility. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Tanya laughed. Okay, maybe a little bit slow. I need to remember how to do this. We'll figure it out together, Julian promised. He left an hour later to go home and change for work, but not before making sure Tanya was okay. She appreciated his concern but also needed him to understand she wasn't going to break. I'm scared, yes, she told him at the door. But I'm not fragile. I can handle going to work, living my life. I just need you to keep being honest with me about the security stuff. Don't hide things to protect my feelings. Deal? Julian agreed. Patricia is coming by the restaurant this afternoon with an update on Derek's arrest. She'll brief both of us. At work, Bridget pounced on her immediately. Are you okay? What happened after you left? Is Derek going to jail? Tanya filled her in on the basics, leaving out the more personal details about staying at her place and the kiss. She wanted to keep that private for now, wanted to protect this new fragile thing between her and Julian. But apparently she wasn't as subtle as she thought, because halfway through their shift, Bridget pulled her aside. You slept with him, didn't you? What? No. Tanya's face heated. We kissed. That's all. He stayed at my place to make sure I felt safe and we kissed. Bridget's eyes went soft. That's actually really sweet. He's a good guy, Tanya. I'm happy for you. It's new. Really new. And complicated. The best things usually are. Patricia arrived at 3, professional as always in her neat suit. She met with Julian first in his office, then called Tanya up. Derek was released on bail this morning, Patricia said without preamble. Before you panic, let me explain. He's been fitted with an ankle monitor, has a no-contact order specifically naming you, and will be arraigned next week. If he violates any terms of his release, he goes back to jail immediately. How did he afford bail? Tanya asked. His mother posted it. I've made contact with her, explained the situation. She seems horrified by his behavior and promised to keep him away from you. But I don't recommend relying on that. What does this mean practically? Julian asked. It means we maintain current security protocols. It means Tanya continues to be vigilant but doesn't let fear control her life. Patricia looked at Tanya. He can't come within 500 feet of you. If he does, call 911 immediately, then call me, then call Mr. Reed. In that order. The police response is most important. After Patricia left, Julian walked Tanya back down to the restaurant floor. Are you okay? He asked. Honestly? I'm getting tired of people asking me that. At his concerned expression, Tanya softened. I don't mean that harshly. I need people to treat me normally. Yes, Derek is out on bail. Yes, that's scary. But I can't live my whole life being scared. I need to work, see friends, date you, live. Okay, Julian said. No more kid gloves. You're right. I'll stop hovering. You can hover a little, Tanya said with a smile. Just not constantly. That weekend, Julian invited Tanya to meet his business partner, Grace. They met at a casual restaurant, and Tanya liked Grace immediately. She was a tall Nigerian woman in her late 30s, sharp and funny, with a directness that Tanya appreciated. So you're the woman who's got Julian smiling like an idiot, Grace said after they ordered. I approve already. Grace, Julian protested, but he was smiling. What? You've been walking around humming show tunes. Humming, Julian. It's disturbing. They spent the meal talking about everything. Grace told stories about the early days of the business, when Julian had worked 18-hour days and survived on coffee and determination. He's mellowed since then, Grace said. But he's still the most stubborn person I know. Once he decides he cares about something or someone, he's all in. I'm sitting right here, Julian pointed out. I know. I'm talking about you, not to you. There's a difference. After dinner, as they walked to their cars, Grace pulled Tanya aside for a moment. He's my best friend, Grace said quietly. So I'm going to be honest with you. Julian doesn't let people in easily. His parents' death, taking care of his sister, building the business, it all taught him to be self-sufficient. The fact that he's let you in, that he's opened up to you, that's significant. Don't hurt him. I won't, Tanya promised. And for what it's worth, I don't let people in easily either anymore. This is significant for me too. Grace's expression softened. Then I think you two are going to be good for each other. Over the next few weeks, Tanya and Julian fell into a rhythm. Dinner together most nights, sometimes at his place, sometimes at hers. Lazy Sunday mornings with coffee and newspapers. Text conversations throughout the day that made them both smile. Julian opened up more about his past, about the loneliness that came with building a business, about how he had pushed away relationships because he was too focused on success to make room for connection. I woke up one day at 32 and realized I had everything I thought I wanted, Julian told her one evening. Money, success, respect. But I was eating dinner alone every night, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd laughed. Really laughed. That's when I knew something had to change. What changed? Tanya asked. I started saying yes to things. Dinner with Grace and her husband. Charity events where I actually talked to people instead of just writing checks. Making space in my life for more than just work. He smiled at her. And then I met you, and suddenly I understood what had been missing. Connection. Real connection with someone who sees past the money and the success to the actual person underneath. Tanya squeezed his hand. I see you. And I like what I see. She also opened up to him about her dreams. The cafe she had always wanted to open, with her grandmother's recipes as the foundation. The business classes she had started taking online using the hotel's education benefits. The way food brought people together and created community. Have you thought about where you'd want to open it? Julian asked. That's jumping way ahead, Tanya said. I need to finish these classes first, save up money, develop a solid business plan. But if you could open it anywhere? Tanya thought about it. Somewhere that needs it. A neighborhood without a good gathering place, somewhere people could come together. Not in a rich area where everything is already established. Somewhere I could make a real difference. Julian listened intently, asking questions, helping her refine her vision. He never made her feel silly for dreaming big. Tanya also finally took Julian's advice and started seeing a therapist. The first session was hard, talking about Derek and the abuse. But Dr. Williams was kind and knowledgeable, and by the third session, Tanya felt like she was actually processing her trauma instead of just living with it. "You're doing good work here," Dr. Williams told her. "Healing isn't linear. You'll have good days and bad days. But you're making real progress." The good days started to outnumber the bad. Tanya found herself laughing more, sleeping better. The constant vigilance didn't disappear completely, but it faded to a manageable level. She could walk to her car without her heart racing. She could hear a loud voice without flinching. One evening, 2 months after they started dating, Julian cooked her dinner at his place. After they ate, he pulled out a folder. "I want to show you something, but I don't want you to feel pressured or think I'm overstepping." Intrigued, Tanya opened the folder. Inside was a business plan for a cafe. Not just any cafe, her cafe. Everything she had mentioned to him, all her ideas and dreams, laid out in professional detail. "Julian, this is..." Tanya couldn't find words. "It's not a gift," Julian said quickly. "It's an investment opportunity. I think your cafe idea is solid, and I'd like to be a silent partner. You'd maintain majority ownership and full creative control. I'd just provide startup capital in exchange for a small percentage of profits." Tanya looked at the numbers. They were fair, more than fair. This wasn't charity. This was a legitimate business proposal. "Why would you do this?" she asked. "Because I believe in you. Because your idea is good. Because I've seen how you light up when you talk about food and community." Julian took her hands. "I make investments all the time, Tanya. This would be one of the better ones. But if you're not ready or if it feels like too much, we can put this away and never talk about it again." Tanya looked at the business plan, at her dreams laid out in black and white. For so long, this had been just a fantasy, something she thought about but never really believed could happen. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Of course. Take all the time you need." But even as she said it, Tanya knew her answer. She wanted this. She wanted the cafe, the dream, the future she was building. And she wanted to build it with Julian's support. "Actually," she said, looking up at him, "I don't need to think about it. Yes, let's do this." Julian's smile was radiant. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. "We're going to build something amazing." "We already are," Tanya whispered against his chest. That night, as they looked over the business plan together, making notes and refining ideas, Tanya felt something she hadn't felt in years. Pure, uncomplicated joy. Spring arrived with cherry blossoms and longer days. Tanya's cafe plans were progressing steadily. They had found a location in a neighborhood that was perfect, working class but growing, with families and young professionals. The space needed work, but it had good bones and large windows that would flood the dining area with light. Bridget had enthusiastically agreed to manage the cafe with her, bringing her own front-of-house expertise. Kenji had offered to consult on the kitchen setup, sharing his knowledge freely. Everything was falling into place. Derek had been quiet. His court date kept getting postponed due to various legal maneuvers, but he hadn't violated the no-contact order. Patricia's quarterly updates showed he was following the terms of his release, staying away from Tanya's work and home. Part of Tanya had started to believe maybe it was really over. She should have known better. It was a Tuesday evening, nearly 7 months after the night in the parking lot. Tanya had been at the cafe location all afternoon, meeting with contractors about the kitchen renovation. She was exhausted but happy, her mind full of tile choices and equipment specifications. She parked in her building's garage and gathered her things, already thinking about the leftover pasta in her fridge. The garage was well lit and secure, key card access required for entry. Tanya didn't even think to be afraid anymore. Until she heard footsteps behind her. She turned, expecting a neighbor. Instead, Derek stood 10 feet away. He looked different. Thinner, harder, with dark circles under his eyes. But the look in those eyes was the same, that blend of obsession and rage she remembered too well. "Tanya." His voice was flat, emotionless. Her phone was in her purse. Security was upstairs. Julian was at his office downtown. She was alone with Derek in a concrete garage with no one around. "You're not supposed to be here," Tanya said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "You have a no-contact order." "I don't care about the order. Derek took a step closer. You ruined my life. I lost my job. My mom won't talk to me. Everyone thinks I'm some kind of monster. All because you lied about me. I didn't lie. Tanya's hand inched toward her purse, toward her phone. Everything I said was true. You hurt me, Derek. You put me in the hospital. Because you made me angry. His voice rose, echoing off the concrete. You always made me so angry, Tanya. Why couldn't you just be good? Why couldn't you just do what I asked? Because I'm not your property, Tanya said. Her fingers found her phone, pressed the power button 3 times rapidly. The emergency alert she had set up months ago, sending her location to Julian, Patricia, and 911. I'm a person with my own thoughts and feelings. You never understood that. Derek laughed, a harsh sound. You think that rich boyfriend of yours makes you better than me now? You think you're too good for me? I think I deserve better than being hit. Tanya kept her voice calm, trying to remember what Dr. Williams had taught her about de-escalation. I think everyone deserves to feel safe with their partner. You never made me feel safe. Safe. Derek's face twisted. You want to talk about safe? I followed you for weeks, Tanya. Weeks. Watching you laugh with your new friends, holding hands with him, acting like you didn't spend 2 years with me. Do you know how that felt? Derek, you need help. Real help from a professional. This obsession isn't healthy. Don't tell me what's healthy. He moved closer and Tanya backed up against her car. You're my girlfriend. What? And you're coming with me right now. We're going to talk this out, work through it. I'm not going anywhere with you. Yes, you are. Derek reached for her arm. Tanya reacted on instinct, the self-defense moves Julian had insisted she learn with a private instructor. She stepped to the side, broke his grip, and put distance between them. Don't touch me. Her voice echoed through the garage. Derek's face went red. You think you can fight me? You think those little classes make you stronger than me? I think they make me smart enough to protect myself. Where was security? Where were the police? Her emergency alert had gone out 5 minutes ago. How long did it take to respond? Derek lunged at her again, and this time Tanya screamed. A loud, piercing scream that bounced off every surface. Derek got his hands on her arms, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise, and Tanya knew in that moment that she was really in danger. Not just theoretical danger but immediate, life-threatening danger. Then the elevator doors burst open and Julian ran out, followed by Frank and 2 police officers. Get away from her. Julian's voice was like nothing Tanya had ever heard from him, pure command and fury. Derek spun, still holding Tanya's arms. For a second she thought he might actually try to fight, might try to take her with him. Then the police officers moved forward, hands on their weapons. Sir, let her go right now. Derek's hands opened and Tanya stumbled away from him, straight into Julian's arms. He held her tight, positioning himself between her and Derek as the police moved in. You're violating a no-contact order, one officer said, pulling out handcuffs. Derek Mitchell, you're under arrest. She's my girlfriend. Derek shouted as they cuffed him. She's lying about me, making things up. I just wanted to talk to her. He followed me, Tanya said, her voice shaking now that the immediate danger had passed. He admitted to following me for weeks. He grabbed me, wouldn't let me go. We have it on camera, Frank said, holding up his phone. The garage security feed. All of it. As the police led Derek away, still shouting about how unfair it all was, Patricia arrived with 2 of her security team. I got the alert, she said, looking shaken. Is everyone all right? He got into the garage, Frank said, clearly upset. Somehow he got past the key card system. We'll figure out how and fix it, Patricia said firmly. But right now let's get Tanya upstairs. Julian kept his arm around Tanya all the way up to her apartment. Once inside she finally allowed herself to fall apart, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. He found me. He's been watching me. The violation of it hit her all at once. 4 weeks, Julian. He's been stalking me and I didn't even know. I know. I'm so sorry. But he's in custody now and this time it's serious. Violating a protection order, stalking, assault. He's not getting out on bail again. Patricia arrived with Frank, both looking serious. The police will need a full statement, Patricia said gently. But that can wait until tomorrow. For now, I want to review what happened. Frank, how did he get in? He tailgate, Frank admitted, clearly angry at himself. Followed another resident's car in right behind them. The sensors didn't catch it because they registered it as one vehicle. That's not your fault, Julian said. We'll install additional security measures. But right now, I need everyone to leave except me. Tanya needs space to breathe. After they left, Julian sat with Tanya on the couch, just holding her. She couldn't stop shaking, couldn't stop seeing Derek's face, feeling his hands on her arms. "I thought it was over," she whispered. "I thought I was safe." "You're safe. He's in custody, Tanya. Real custody this time. My lawyer already called. Between the violation, the stalking evidence, and the security footage of him assaulting you, he's looking at serious jail time. He said he's been watching me for weeks. Following me, seeing me with you, watching the cafe location." The thought made her sick. "I felt safe and I wasn't. I've been living my life thinking he had given up and he was right there." "That's not your fault," Julian said firmly. "You did everything right. Security measures, restraining orders, being vigilant. He was breaking the law. This is on him, not you. I want to feel safe again." Tanya looked up at him. "I want to stop being scared." "You will. After tonight, after he faces real consequences, you will. But right now it's okay to be scared. What happened was traumatic." They sat together until Tanya's shaking subsided. Julian made her tea, ordered food she didn't eat, and just stayed close. Around midnight, Tanya finally admitted she was exhausted. "I don't want to be alone," she said. "Will you stay again?" "I'll stay as long as you need me." They went to bed together, fully clothed, just holding each other. Tanya couldn't sleep at first, her mind replaying the garage scene over and over. But eventually, with Julian's steady breathing and warmth surrounding her, exhaustion took over. The next morning brought a headache and the reality of what came next. Police statements, legal proceedings, reliving the worst moments for official records. Tanya was dreading it. But when the detective arrived to take her statement, Julian was there. When she had to go to the police station to review the security footage, Julian drove her. When she broke down crying halfway through describing Derek grabbing her, Julian held her hand. "You're incredibly brave," the detective said after they finished. "Many victims don't report violations. The evidence you've provided, combined with the security footage, makes this an open and shut case. Derek Mitchell is going away for a while." "How long?" Tanya asked. "Given his history, the violation, the stalking evidence, and the assault? I'd say 2 to 3 years minimum, possibly more." It was a relief and also surreal. 2 to 3 years. Long enough for her to build a whole new life. Long enough to maybe finally stop looking over her shoulder. The media picked up the story, a local angle about a domestic violence case and the importance of taking protective orders seriously. Tanya declined interview requests, but the coverage meant people knew what Derek had done. His mother released a statement saying she was ashamed of her son's actions and supported Tanya fully. Through it all, Julian was there. Not hovering, not smothering, just present. A steady, constant support that Tanya had never experienced before. "I love you," she told him one evening 2 weeks after the garage incident. They were at his place, cooking dinner together, something they had started doing as a way to relax. "I don't know if it's too soon to say it, but I do. I love you." Julian stopped chopping vegetables and turned to her, his expression soft with emotion. "I love you too. I have for a while now." They kissed and it felt different than before. Deeper, more certain. This wasn't just comfort or gratitude or crisis bonding. This was real love, built on trust and respect and genuine connection. "We're going to be okay," Julian murmured against her lips. "All of this, everything we're building, it's going to be amazing." Tanya believed him. For the first time in her life, she believed that love didn't have to hurt. That relationships could be safe and supportive. That she deserved happiness. Derek's arraignment was scheduled for the following month. His lawyer tried to argue for a plea deal, but the prosecutor was having none of it. The evidence was too strong, the pattern too clear. "He's going to trial," Patricia informed them. "And you'll have to testify, Tanya? Are you ready for that?" "Yes," Tanya said, surprised by her own certainty. "I'm ready to face him one more time. After that, I never want to see him again." The trial would come later. But for now, Tanya focused on moving forward. The cafe renovations were progressing. Her therapy sessions were helping her process everything. And Julian, wonderful Julian, was there every step of the way. Not fixing things for her, not taking over, just being a partner in the truest sense of the word. And slowly, day by day, Tanya felt the fear losing its grip on her. She was becoming the person she was meant to be all along, before Derek, before the abuse, before she learned to make herself small. She was becoming strong. Life was finally going right. But when the past comes back one last time, will Tanya have the strength to face it? Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the final chapters of this journey. Drop a comment below letting me know what you think will happen next. 3 months passed and Derek's trial date approached. The prosecutor was confident, the evidence overwhelming. But Tanya still felt nervous about testifying, about facing Derek in court and recounting the worst moments of her life for a jury of strangers. "You don't have to do this alone," Dr. Williams reminded her during a session. "You have support now. Use it." And she did. Julian helped her practice her testimony without pushing, just listening and offering encouragement. Bridget came over the night before the trial with ice cream and terrible reality TV providing distraction and laughter. Patricia walked Tanya through court procedures, explaining exactly what to expect. The trial lasted 3 days. Tanya testified on the second day, her voice steady as she described the 2 years of abuse, the hospital visits she had hidden from friends, the escalating violence, and finally the night Derek found her in the garage. Derek's lawyer tried to paint her as vindictive, as someone who was lying to get back at an ex-boyfriend. But the hospital records didn't lie. The police reports didn't lie. The security footage definitely didn't lie. Julian sat in the courtroom gallery every day, a steady presence. He couldn't sit with Tanya because she was testifying, but knowing he was there helped. On the third day, the jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Derek was sentenced to 4 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 3 if he completed anger management and domestic violence intervention programs. When the judge read the sentence, Derek turned and stared at Tanya. But there was no rage in his eyes anymore. Just defeat. "It's over," Patricia said as they left the courthouse. "Really over this time." "He could get parole in 3 years," Tanya pointed out. "And by then, you'll have built such a strong life that he'll be irrelevant," Julian said, taking her hand. "He'll be a bad memory, nothing more." Tanya wanted to believe that. And standing there in the sunshine, free from the fear that had haunted her for so long, she found that she did believe it. That evening, Julian took her to dinner at a quiet restaurant. It felt celebratory but also reflective, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. "How are you feeling?" Julian asked over dessert. "Lighter," Tanya admitted. "Like I've been carrying this weight and I didn't even realize how heavy it was until it was gone. I know healing isn't instant and I'm sure I'll still have hard days. But right now I feel free. You're free. And I'm so proud of you for standing up in that courtroom and telling your truth. I couldn't have done it without you. Any of it." Tanya reached across the table for his hand. "You gave me a safe place to land when I needed it most. You helped me believe I deserved better. You stood by me through all of this without trying to fix me or control me. Do you know how rare that is? You did the hard work, Tanya. I just provided support. You provided more than that. You provided hope." She squeezed his hand. "I love you. And I'm ready to really move forward now, not just surviving but actually thriving." Over the next few weeks, Tanya threw herself into the cafe preparations. The renovations were almost complete and she spent long days at the location, working with contractors, planning the menu and setting up systems with Bridget. "Second Chance's Cafe," Bridget said, looking at the sign they had just hung. "I love it. It's perfect. My grandmother always said everyone deserves a second chance at happiness," Tanya explained. "This feels like mine." They hired a small staff, local people from the neighborhood who needed opportunities. Tanya trained them herself, teaching not just service but the philosophy behind the cafe. Good food, warm atmosphere, treating everyone with dignity. Kenji came by to inspect the kitchen and gave his approval. "This is a professional setup. Your grandmother would be proud." Julian attended every milestone. The day the equipment was installed, the first menu tasting, the soft opening for friends and family. He took pictures, offered input when asked, and generally acted like Tanya's success was his own personal victory. "You know you don't have to be at every single thing," Tanya teased him one evening. "I know. But I want to be. Watching you build this, seeing you confident and happy, it's the best part of my day." The official opening was set for a Saturday in early fall. The neighborhood showed up in force, drawn by the inviting space and the smell of Tanya's cooking. Her grandmother's mole recipe was the star dish and people raved about it. "This is incredible," one customer said. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" "From my grandmother," Tanya said proudly. "Every recipe here has a story, a history. That's what makes it special." By closing time, they had served over 100 people. Tanya was exhausted but glowing with pride. Julian and Grace helped clean up, refusing to leave until everything was done. "This is a success," Grace declared. "No question. You're going to do amazing things here, Tanya." Alone with Julian after everyone left, Tanya walked through her cafe, touching the tables, the counter, the chalkboard menu she had written herself. "I did this," she said softly. "I actually did this." "You did," Julian agreed, coming up behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "From an idea to a reality. You should be incredibly proud." "I am. And grateful. To you for believing in me. To everyone who helped. To myself for not giving up even when things were hard." They stood there together looking at what she had built. Not just a cafe, but a symbol of her journey from victim to survivor to someone thriving. "I have something for you," Julian said. He pulled out a small box from his pocket. Tanya's heart jumped. Was this what she thought it was? But when she opened the box, it wasn't a ring. It was a key on a simple chain. "Key to my place," Julian explained. "I want you to have it. Not because I'm assuming anything about our timeline, but because I want you to know you always have a place with me. Whenever you need it, day or night, you're welcome in my home." Tanya felt tears building. "That's really sweet. And somewhat anticlimactic after I thought you were proposing." Julian laughed. "Too soon for proposals. But not too soon for this." He took the key and fastened the chain around her neck. "I love you, Tanya Rodriguez. And I'm in this for the long haul, whatever that looks like." "I love you too. And I want the long haul. With you, with this cafe, with the life we're building." They kissed in the middle of her empty cafe, surrounded by the smell of spices and fresh paint, two people who had found each other at exactly the right time. The cafe thrived over the following months. Regular customers became like family. Tanya expanded the menu, adding new dishes while keeping her grandmother's recipes as the foundation. Bridget proved to be an excellent manager, handling the business side while Tanya focused on the food. Julian proposed on a random Tuesday, not at some fancy restaurant or romantic vacation, but in his kitchen while they were cooking dinner together. He had been stirring sauce when he suddenly turned to her and said, "Will you marry me?" Tanya, holding a knife and half a chopped onion, just stared at him. "Right now? You're proposing right now?" "I had this whole plan," Julian admitted. "Fancy dinner, violins, the works. But standing here with you, doing this normal everyday thing, I realized this is what I want. Not grand gestures, just life. Everyday life with you. So yes, right now. Will you marry me, Tanya?" "Yes," Tanya said immediately, setting down the knife. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." He pulled out a ring from his pocket, a simple band with a single stone. "I've been carrying this around for 2 weeks trying to find the perfect moment. Turns out the perfect moment is just whenever we're together." They got married 6 months later in a small ceremony at the cafe. Just close friends and a few family members. Bridget was maid of honor, Grace stood up for Julian. Kenji catered, refusing to let anyone else touch the food. "Your grandmother would have loved this," Julian whispered as they danced to their first song as a married couple. "She would have loved you," Tanya corrected. "For treating me the way I deserve to be treated. For seeing me as a partner, not as something to own. That's the only way I know how to love you. As an equal." 1 year after opening, Second Chance's Cafe was featured in a local magazine as one of the best new restaurants in the city. The article focused on Tanya's story, her journey from abuse survivor to successful business owner, though she made sure to emphasize that her story was about more than just escaping abuse. "It's about finding yourself again after someone tried to take that away," she told the interviewer. "It's about accepting help when it's offered, building community, and believing you deserve good things. Everyone deserves a second chance, including yourself." The article brought more customers but also something unexpected. Women started coming in, asking to speak with Tanya privately. They wanted advice, resources, hope. Some were in situations like hers had been. Others were newly out and trying to rebuild. "I want to do more," Tanya told Julian one night. "I want to help these women the way I was helped." Together they created a program through the cafe. Job training for domestic violence survivors, providing work experience in a safe environment. Partnership with local shelters to provide meals and catering services. A quiet corner of the cafe where women could meet with counselors in a neutral, comfortable space. "You're making a real difference," Patricia said when she learned about the program. "Not just in individual lives but in the community." 2 years after Derek's conviction, Tanya received a letter. It was from him, sent from prison. She stared at it for a long time before deciding to open it. The letter was an apology. Not the kind of apology that made excuses or blamed her for his reactions. A real apology taking full responsibility for his actions, acknowledging the harm he caused and expressing genuine remorse. "I've been working with a therapist here," he wrote. "Trying to understand why I thought I had the right to control you, to hurt you. There's no excuse for what I did. You deserved so much better. I'm writing this not because I expect forgiveness, but because you deserve to know that I recognize what I took from you. I'm truly sorry, Tanya. I hope you found happiness. Tanya showed the letter to Julian, to Dr. Williams, to Patricia. They all read it and agreed it seemed genuine. What do you want to do with this? Dr. Williams asked. Nothing, Tanya decided. I believe he's sorry. I hope he's actually changing. But I don't need to respond or engage. That part of my life is over. I've moved on and I'm not looking back. She threw the letter away and didn't think about it again. Derek was her past. Julian, the cafe, the life she was building, that was her future. Spring returned, bringing with it the anniversary of Second Chance's Cafe. 2 years of operation, 2 years of success. Tanya stood in the kitchen early one morning, prepping for the day, and marveled at how far she had come. 3 years ago, she had been hiding in a studio apartment, terrified to leave the house. Now she owned a thriving business, had a husband she adored, and was making a real difference in her community. Morning, boss, Bridget called, arriving for her shift. Ready for the anniversary party tonight? They had planned a celebration, inviting regular customers, staff, and friends. It would be low-key but meaningful, exactly Tanya's style. Julian arrived mid-morning with coffee and pastries from a bakery down the street. He kissed Tanya hello and settled at his usual corner table with his laptop, working remotely so he could be close by. You know you don't have to work here every day, Tanya said, though she loved that he did. I know. But I like being here. Plus, your coffee is better than what I get at the office. The day passed in a blur of activity. Lunch service was busy, with regulars stopping by to offer congratulations. Some brought flowers, others cards. One elderly woman who came in every Tuesday for the vegetable soup pressed a check into Tanya's hand. For your program, she said. The one helping women. My daughter was in a situation like yours once. Programs like yours saved her life. Please use this to help more women. The check was for $5,000. Tanya cried right there in the middle of the lunch rush. That evening, the anniversary party was everything Tanya hoped for. The cafe was packed with people who had become like family over the past 2 years. Grace gave a toast about Tanya's courage and vision. Kenji presented her with a custom chef's knife engraved with the cafe's logo. Bridget made her cry with a speech about friendship and second chances. Then Julian stood up and the room went quiet. Most of you know how Tanya and I met, he began. A scared woman jumped into my car in a parking lot, asking for help. I had no idea that moment would change my entire life. Tanya, you've changed me in ways I'm still discovering. You've taught me that strength isn't about never needing help, it's about being brave enough to ask for it. You've shown me that love should feel safe, should feel like home. He pulled out a folder and handed it to Tanya. This is your anniversary gift from me. Though it's really more of a proposal. Confused, Tanya opened the folder. Inside was a deed to the building next door to the cafe. The empty storefront she had often looked at, imagining expansion possibilities. I bought it, Julian said. For you. Or rather, for us. I thought you could expand the cafe, add a full kitchen training program, maybe some community meeting spaces. Whatever you want to do with it, it's yours. Tanya stared at the deed, at the gift that represented so much more than just a building. It represented Julian's complete faith in her vision, his support of her dreams, his partnership in building a future together. This is too much, she whispered. It's not a gift, Julian corrected gently. It's an investment. I believe in what you're building here, Tanya. And I want to be part of making it even bigger. Around them, people applauded. Tanya threw her arms around Julian, crying and laughing at the same time. We're going to do amazing things with this, she promised. We already are. Planning the expansion took months. Tanya worked with architects to design a space that could serve multiple purposes. A larger kitchen for training programs. A community room for support group meetings. A small retail section where program graduates could sell their own products. This is becoming more than a cafe, Bridget observed one day as they looked at blueprints. This is becoming a real community center. That's the idea, Tanya agreed. Food is just the entry point. The real work is creating a place where people feel seen and valued and supported. They partnered with local organizations, domestic violence shelters, job training programs, and community colleges. Women could come to Second Chances for a 6-month intensive program, learning professional cooking and service skills while receiving counseling and job placement support. The first cohort of students started in the fall. 8 women, all survivors of domestic violence, all trying to rebuild their lives. Tanya saw herself in each of them, the fear and hope mixed together, the desperate desire for something better. I want you to know something, Tanya told them on their first day. Being here doesn't define you as a victim. It defines you as a survivor who's choosing to build a new life. That takes incredible courage. I'm honored to be part of your journey. She taught them her grandmother's recipes, shared the stories behind each dish. But more than that, she showed them that it was possible to find joy again after trauma, to trust again, to hope again. One student, a young woman named Tiana, reminded Tanya so much of herself. Quiet, watchful, flinching at loud noises. Tanya took extra time with her, offering encouragement and patience. How did you stop being afraid? Tiana asked one day after class. I'm not sure I ever completely stopped, Tanya admitted. But I learned to trust myself again. To trust my judgment, my instincts. And I surrounded myself with people who treated me with respect and kindness. Eventually, good experiences started to outnumber the bad ones. Do you think I'll ever be normal again? You're already normal. You're a human being who experienced trauma and is working to heal. That's the most normal thing in the world. Tanya smiled at her. Give yourself time. And give yourself credit for how far you've already come. By the end of the 6-month program, all 8 women had job placements. 3 stayed on at second chances, joining the permanent staff. 2 opened their own small catering businesses. The others found positions at restaurants and hotels around the city. At the graduation ceremony, Tanya gave each woman a framed copy of her grandmother's mole recipe. This recipe represents my heritage, my family, my journey, Tanya explained. I'm giving it to you not so you'll make it exactly as written, but so you'll adapt it and make it your own. Take what works, change what doesn't, add your own special touches. That's what life is about, taking what you've been given and making it uniquely yours. Tiana hugged her tightly after the ceremony. Thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself. That's what second chances are for, Tanya said. As the program expanded, so did Tanya's reputation. She was invited to speak at domestic violence awareness events, at business conferences, at culinary schools. She always said yes, seeing each opportunity as a chance to help more people. Julian accompanied her when he could, proud but never overshadowing. He had learned to be supportive without being controlling, to offer help without taking over. Their marriage was a true partnership, built on mutual respect and genuine love. 3 years after opening Second Chances, Tanya received an unexpected call. A publishing company wanted her to write a cookbook, combining her grandmother's recipes with her own story of survival and recovery. I'm not a writer, Tanya protested. You're a storyteller, the editor countered. Every recipe you serve comes with a story. We just want to put those stories in print. She discussed it with Julian over dinner that night. It feels overwhelming. Writing a whole book while running the cafe and the training program? So hire help. Bring in a co-writer if you need to. But don't turn this down because you're afraid it's too much. You've done harder things than write a book. He was right. She had survived Derek, built a business, created a program that was changing lives. She could write a book. The process took a year. A writer helped shape her stories, but the words were all Tanya's. Each recipe was accompanied by a memory of her grandmother, a reflection on her journey, or a message of hope for readers who might be struggling. When the book released, it became a bestseller almost immediately. Not just in cooking circles, but in recovery and self-help sections too. Tanya received hundreds of letters from readers, thanking her for her honesty, for giving them hope, for showing them that life could get better. You're helping people you'll never meet, Julian said, reading through some of the letters with her. Your grandmother would be so proud. I hope so. All of this, everything we've built, it comes back to what she taught me. That food is love, that community matters, that everyone deserves dignity and respect. On their 4th anniversary, Julian surprised Tanya with a trip to Mexico, to the small town where her grandmother had been born. They spent a week there, meeting distant relatives, learning family history, eating amazing food. This is where it all started, Tanya said, standing in the kitchen of her grandmother's childhood home, now occupied by a cousin. All those recipes, all those traditions, they began here. And you're carrying them forward, Julian said. Adapting them, sharing them, keeping your grandmother's legacy alive. They returned home refreshed and inspired. Tanya immediately began planning a new menu focused on regional Mexican cuisine, dishes her grandmother had only talked about but never taught her. She researched, experimented, and created something that honored her heritage while being uniquely her own. The cafe continued to thrive. The training program graduated its 3rd cohort, with a 90% job placement rate. Tanya was featured in national magazines, on morning talk shows, in documentaries about survivors creating positive change. But the achievement she was most proud of wasn't the awards or recognition. It was the community she had built. The regulars who came in daily, treating the cafe like their second home. The graduates of the training program who stayed in touch, sending updates about their lives. The women who found courage in her story to leave their own abusive situations. One afternoon, a young woman came into the cafe during a quiet moment. She approached Tanya hesitantly. "Are you Tanya Reed?" "I am," Tanya said, wiping her hands on her apron. "I read your book. I'm in a relationship like you described. He hasn't hit me yet, but he controls everything. Where I go, who I talk to, what I wear. I know it's wrong, but I'm scared to leave." Tanya's heart ached with recognition. This girl couldn't be more than 22, her whole life ahead of her. "Sit down," Tanya said gently, leading her to a quiet table. "Let me get you some tea and we'll talk." They talked for 2 hours. Tanya shared resources, phone numbers for shelters, advice about safety planning. She didn't tell the girl what to do, just provided information and support. "When you're ready to leave," Tanya said, "you call me. Day or night, doesn't matter. I'll help you find somewhere safe. And when you're ready to rebuild, we have a program here that can help with that too." The girl left with Tanya's personal number and tears of gratitude in her eyes. 3 weeks later, she called at 2 in the morning. She had left, was at a shelter, and was terrified but also relieved. Tanya stayed on the phone with her for an hour, offering encouragement and reassurance. When the girl was calm enough to sleep, Tanya hung up and found Julian awake in bed, waiting for her. "Another one?" he asked. "Another one," Tanya confirmed, climbing back into bed. "She's safe now. That's what matters." "You can't save everyone," Julian said gently. "No. But I can help the ones who ask. And maybe they'll help someone else someday. That's how change happens, one person at a time." Julian pulled her close. "Have I told you lately how amazing you are? You might have mentioned it once or twice." They lay together in comfortable silence, and Tanya reflected on her journey. From that terrified woman in the parking lot to this person she had become, confident and purposeful and genuinely happy. "Do you ever think about Derek?" Julian asked quietly. Tanya considered the question honestly. "Sometimes. But not with fear anymore. I think about how young I was, how I didn't know I deserved better. I think about how far I've come since then. He's part of my story, but he's not the story anymore. This is the story. Us, the cafe, the lives we're touching. He's just a chapter that's over." "I'm glad you found me," Julian said. "Or that you jumped into my car, more accurately. Best decision I ever made. Well, second best. The best was saying yes when you proposed over half-chopped onions." They laughed together, two people who had found each other at exactly the right moment and built something beautiful from that chance encounter. As sleep finally came, Tanya felt profound gratitude. For Julian, for the cafe, for her grandmother's recipes and wisdom. For second chances and fresh starts. For the community she had built and the lives she was touching. But most of all, for herself. For having the courage to ask for help that night in the parking lot. For choosing to heal instead of staying broken. For believing she deserved love and happiness and success. She had taken the hand that was offered and used it to pull herself up. And now she was offering her hand to others, helping them climb up too. That was what second chances were really about. Not just receiving grace but extending it to others. Not just being helped but becoming someone who helps. And as Tanya drifted off to sleep in her husband's arms, in the home they had built together, she knew with absolute certainty that her grandmother would be proud. Not just of the cafe or the cookbook or the awards, but of the woman Tanya had become. Strong, compassionate, purposeful, and free. Finally, beautifully free. 1 year later, Tanya stood in front of the mirror in a private room at Second Chance's cafe, smoothing down the skirt of her dress. It was a simple design in a rich maroon color, elegant without being overly formal. Today was special and she wanted to look her best. "You look beautiful," Bridget said, adjusting the flowers in Tanya's hair. "Though I still can't believe you're doing your wedding reception here instead of some fancy venue." "This place is us," Tanya said simply. "It's where our story really began to take root. Why would we celebrate anywhere else?" They had gotten legally married months ago in a simple courthouse ceremony, just the two of them and 2 witnesses. But today was the celebration, the gathering of everyone who had been part of their journey. The cafe had been transformed. Lights were strung across the ceiling, flowers decorated every surface, and Kenji had outdone himself with the catering. The menu featured all of Tanya's grandmother's recipes, the ones that had started everything. Guests began arriving at 4. Grace came with her husband and children. Patricia arrived looking less severe than usual in a pretty blue dress. Frank brought his wife. The staff from the restaurant, graduates from the training program, regular customers who had become like family. Even Dr. Williams came, hugging Tanya warmly. "Look at you," she said. "Look at how far you've come." "We did good work together," Tanya said. "You did the work. I just provided a space for you to heal." Julian waited at the front of the cafe, handsome in a dark suit with a green tie that brought out his eyes. When Tanya walked toward him, his face lit up with pure joy. "Hi," she said when she reached him. "Hi yourself. Ready to do this?" "I've been ready since you proposed over those onions." The ceremony was brief, just a renewal of the vows they had already made to each other. But this time they were surrounded by their community, by people who had witnessed their journey and supported them along the way. "I promise to always see you as my equal partner," Julian said, holding both her hands. "To support your dreams without trying to control them. To love you not because I need you, but because I choose you every single day." "I promise to trust you with my heart," Tanya responded, tears already streaming down her face. "To let you help me without feeling weak. To build a life with you based on respect and honesty and genuine love. You saved my life by being exactly who you are, and I promise to spend the rest of my life showing you that you made a good choice." "Best choice I ever made," Julian said, pulling her in for a kiss that had everyone applauding. The reception was exactly what Tanya had imagined. Good food, better company, and the feeling of being surrounded by love. She danced with Julian, with Frank, with Kenji. She laughed with Bridget and Grace. She watched the training program graduates dancing together, these women who had become friends through shared struggle and shared triumph. "Speech time," Grace announced, tapping her glass. Julian pulled Tanya to the front of the room, keeping her hand in his. "Most of you know our story," Julian began. "How we met in a parking lot under less than ideal circumstances. How Tanya had the courage to ask a complete stranger for help, and how that moment changed both our lives forever. What you might not know," Tanya continued, "is how many times I almost didn't get in that car. How many times I thought about just dealing with Derek on my own, because asking for help felt like admitting I had failed somehow. If I had listened to that voice, I wouldn't be standing here today. I wouldn't have this cafe, wouldn't have helped all the women who've come through our program, and I definitely wouldn't have found the love of my life. The point is," Julian said, "accepting help when you need it isn't weakness. It's wisdom. And offering help when you can isn't charity. It's community. We built this place on that idea," Tanya added, gesturing around the cafe. "That everyone deserves a second chance. That kindness matters. That hope and love should always lead even when things are hard. Especially when things are hard." She looked at the faces around the room, so many people who had played a part in her journey. "To everyone here, thank you. Thank you for believing in me, for supporting this dream, for being part of this community we've built. You've all given me a second chance at happiness, and I hope I've been able to do the same for some of you." The applause was thunderous. People stood, raising their glasses in toast. Tanya felt Julian's arm around her waist, steady and sure, and knew with absolute certainty that this was where she belonged. Later, as the party wound down and people began saying their goodbyes, Tiana approached Tanya. She was one of the early program graduates, now running her own successful catering business. "I have something to tell you," Tiana said, practically bouncing with excitement. "I'm starting my own training program. Nothing as big as yours, just a small thing through my church. But I want to help women the way you helped me. I want to give back." Tanya hugged her tightly. "That's perfect. That's exactly how it should work. We help each other, lift each other up. I'm so proud of you. I learned from the best." After everyone left, Tanya and Julian stood in the middle of the cafe, surrounded by the remnants of the celebration. Flower petals on the floor, empty glasses waiting to be collected, the lingering smell of good food and happiness. "We should probably clean this up," Tanya said without moving. "Probably," Julian agreed, also not moving. "Or we could leave it for the morning and just enjoy this moment." "I like that option better." They swayed together to music only they could hear, moving slowly in the dim light. "Do you remember that first night?" Tanya asked. "When I jumped in your car?" "Every detail. You were terrified but also determined. I remember thinking you were the bravest person I'd ever met. I was a mess. You were surviving. There's a difference." Julian pulled back to look at her. "And look at you now. Business owner, author, mentor to dozens of women, my wife. You're extraordinary, Tanya." "We're extraordinary," she corrected. "This isn't my success, it's ours. You've been there for every step, believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself. That's what partners do." They finished cleaning up together, working in comfortable silence. As they locked up the cafe for the night, Tanya took one last look around. My grandmother used to say that food brings people together, but love keeps them together, she said. I think she was right. This place, everything we've built here, it's held together by love. Love for the food, for the community, for each other. Your grandmother was a wise woman. They drove home to the house they had bought 6 months ago, a comfortable place with a big kitchen where they cooked together most nights. The key Julian had given her years ago now opened a front door that was truly theirs, a home they had chosen together. As they got ready for bed, Tanya's phone buzzed with a text. It was from the young woman who had called her at 2 in the morning all those months ago. The one she had helped escape to a shelter. I got accepted into Second Chances, the text read. Next cohort. Thank you for not giving up on me. Tanya showed the message to Julian, tears in her eyes. That's 3 years of cohorts, he said. You've helped over 50 women directly and they'll go on to help others. The ripple effect of what you're doing is immeasurable. What we're doing, Tanya corrected. I couldn't do any of this without you. They climbed into bed and Tanya settled into Julian's arms, her favorite place in the world. Do you ever think about how different things could have been? She asked. If you hadn't been in that parking lot? If you had locked your car door? If you had refused to help? I think about it sometimes, Julian admitted. But then I remember that you would have found another way. Because that's who you are. A survivor, a fighter, someone who refuses to give up. I just happened to be the lucky one who got to be part of your journey. We were both lucky, Tanya said. Finding each other when we did, both needing something the other could provide. You needed purpose beyond just making money. I needed someone to show me what real love looks like. We saved each other. I like that version better than me saving you. They lay together in comfortable silence, and Tanya reflected on everything that had happened since that night 5 years ago. The terror, the healing, the growth, the love. It had been a long journey with setbacks and struggles along the way. But every hard moment had led to this, to a life she loved with a person she adored. Julian, she said sleepily. Yeah. Thank you for being in that parking lot. Thank you for not turning me away. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being brave enough to ask for help. Thank you for letting me love you. Thank you for building this beautiful life with me. Tanya fell asleep feeling safe and loved and grateful. Tomorrow she would wake up and go to the cafe, would help more women find their second chances, would continue building the community she had created. But tonight she was just Tanya Reid, wife to a man who loved her, owner of a successful business, mentor to dozens, and most importantly, a survivor who had not just overcome her past but had transformed it into something meaningful. Her grandmother had been right. Everyone deserves a second chance. And Tanya had taken hers and turned it into a whole new life, one filled with purpose and joy and love. As she drifted off to sleep, she thought about all the women out there who were where she had been. Scared, alone, thinking there was no way out. She hoped her story would reach them somehow, would give them the courage to take that first step toward freedom. Because that's all it took. One step. One moment of bravery. One person willing to help and another willing to accept that help. Everything else, all the beautiful things that came after, they grew from that single seed of courage and kindness. And that was the real story. Not about a billionaire saving a waitress. But about two people choosing each other, building something meaningful together, and using their happiness to help others find their own. It was a story of hope, of second chances, of love that healed instead of hurt. And it was only just beginning. The next morning, Tanya woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and Julian already up making coffee. She stretched, feeling content down to her bones. Morning, Julian called from the kitchen. I made your favorite. She padded into the kitchen to find him plating her grandmother's breakfast dish, the one with eggs and salsa and warm tortillas. He had learned to make it just the way she liked it. What's the occasion? She asked. Do I need an occasion to cook for my wife? They ate together on the back patio, enjoying the cool morning air. Later they would both head to work. Julian to his office, Tanya to the cafe. They would text throughout the day, meet for lunch if schedules allowed, and come home to each other in the evening. It was ordinary. Beautifully, perfectly ordinary. And after everything she had been through, ordinary felt like the greatest gift of all. At the cafe, Bridget had already opened up and was prepping for the day. The new training cohort would start next week, and they needed to make sure everything was ready. Morning, boss, Bridget greeted her. We got a delivery of fresh flowers. I put them in your office. In her office, which was really just a converted storage room with a desk and some shelves, Tanya found a beautiful bouquet. The card read, just because. Love, Jay. She texted him immediately, "You're too much." His response came quickly, "Never. See you for lunch?" "Always." The day passed in its usual rhythm. Breakfast service, lunch rush, the quiet afternoon lull before dinner prep began. Tanya moved through it all with practiced ease, greeting regulars, training new staff, cooking in the kitchen when Kenji needed an extra pair of hands. This was her life now. Not glamorous, not always easy, but deeply fulfilling. She was making a difference, one meal at a time, one conversation at a time, one woman at a time. At 3 o'clock, a young woman walked in looking nervous. She approached the counter hesitantly. "Are you Tanya Reed?" "I am," Tanya said with a warm smile. "What can I help you with?" "I read your book. And I need help. I need to leave but I don't know how." Tanya's heart squeezed with recognition and purpose. This was why she did what she did. This was what it was all about. "Sit down," she said gently. "Let's talk. And then we'll figure out your next steps together." As she sat with this woman, offering the same support and resources she had once received, Tanya felt the circle completing. From victim to survivor to mentor. From darkness to light to helping others find their own light. This was the story she wanted to tell. Not about being saved by a billionaire, but about finding the courage to save herself. About accepting help when it was offered. About healing and growing and building something meaningful from the ashes of what was lost. About how kindness, hope, and love should always lead. Because they did. They led her out of darkness. They led her to Julian. They led her to this cafe, this community, this life she had built. And they would lead this woman, and the next one, and the one after that, toward their own second chances. Because everyone deserved one. And Tanya would spend the rest of her life making sure as many women as possible got theirs. That was her purpose. Her calling. Her joy. And as the young woman across from her began to cry tears of relief and hope, Tanya knew with absolute certainty that every hard moment, every struggle, every frightening step along the way had been worth it. Because it had led her here. To this moment. To this life. To home.